Ares, god of war, was tall and handsome, but vain, and as cruel as his brother Hephaestus was kind. Eris, the spirit of strife, was his constant companion. Eris was sinister and mean, and her greatest joy was to make trouble. She had a golden apple that was so bright and shiny everybody wanted to have it. When she threw it among friends, their friendship came to a rapid end. When she threw it among enemies, war broke out, for the golden apple of Eris was an apple of discord. When Ares heard the clashing of arms, he grinned with glee, put on his gleaming helmet, and leapt into his war chariot. Brandishing his sword like a torch, he reached into the thick of battle, not caring who won or lost as long as much blood was shed. A vicious crowd followed at his heels, carrying with them pain, panic, famine, and oblivion. Once in a while Ares himself was wounded. He was immortal, but he could not bear to suffer pain, and screamed so loudly that he could be heard for miles. Then he would run home to Olympus, where Zeus in disgust called him the worst of his children, and told him to stop his howling. His wounds, treated with the ointment of the gods, quickly healed, and Ares returned as good as ever and seated himself on his throne, tall, handsome, and boastful, the plume on his golden helmet nodding proudly. Aphrodite admired him for his splendid looks, but none of the other gods were fond of him, least of all his half-sister Athena. She loathed his vain strutting and senseless bloodshed. Athena, the goddess of wisdom, was the favorite child of Zeus. She had sprung fully grown out of her father's head. Her mother was Metis, goddess of prudence, the first wife of Zeus. He depended on her, for he needed her wise counsel, but Mother Earth warned him that, were Metis to bear him a son, this son would dethrone him as Zeus had dethroned Cronus, his father who had dethroned his own father, Uranus. This must not happen, thought Zeus, but he could not do without her advice, so he decided to swallow her. Slyly he proposed that they play a game of changing shapes, and Metis, forgetting her prudence, playfully turned herself into all kinds of animals, big and small. Just as she had taken the shape of a little fly, Zeus opened wide his mouth, took a deep breath, and zip! He swallowed the fly. Ever after, Metis sat in his head and guided him from there. Now it happened that Metis was going to have a daughter, and she sat inside Zeus's head, hammering out a helmet and weaving a splendid robe for the coming child. Soon Zeus began to suffer from pounding headaches and cried out in agony. All the gods came running to help him, and skilled Hephaestus grasped his tools and split open his father's skull. Out sprang Athena, wearing the robe and the helmet, her gray eyes flashing. Thunder roared, and the gods stood in awe. Athena's constant companion was Nike, the spirit of victory. With Nike at her side, Athena led armies, but only those that fought for just causes. In time of peace, she stood behind the artists of Greece and taught them the fine and useful arts. She had great pride in her own skills at the loom and the potter's wheel, but was happy to see her pupils excel as long as they showed her proper respect. One of her pupils was Arachne, a simple country girl who was wonderfully skilled at the loom. People came from far and wide to admire her weavings. Stupidly, she boasted that she had learned nothing from Athena, indeed that she was better than the goddess. That hurt Athena's pride. Disguised as an old woman, she went to the girl and tried to talk sense into her. "Your work is beautiful," she said, "but why compare yourself with the gods? Why not be contented to be the best among mortals?" "Let the goddess Athena herself come and measure her skill against mine," Arachne answered haughtily. Angrily, Athena threw off her disguise and stood before the girl in all her glory. "Vain girl," she said, "you may have your wish. Sit down at your loom and let us compete." Athena wove the most beautiful tapestry ever seen. Every thread and knot was perfect, and the colors sparkled. It pictured the Olympian gods in all their glory and majesty. Arachne's tapestry was also beautifully woven. Athena herself had to admit that the girl's craftsmanship was flawless. But what kind of picture had she woven? An irreverent scene making fun of Zeus and his wives. In a wrath, the goddess tore the tapestry to shreds and struck the girl with the shuttle. Immediately Arachne felt her head shrink to almost nothing. Her nimble fingers changed into long, spindly legs. Athena had turned her into a spider. "Vainglorious girl, go on and spin your thread and weave your empty net forever," said Athena to Arachne the spider. Athena was a just goddess, and she could be very stern. She knew that the gods were great only as long as they were properly worshipped by mortals. Athena was very fond of a certain city in Greece, and so was her uncle Poseidon. Both of them claimed the city, and after a long quarrel they decided that the one who could give it the finest gift should have it. Leading a procession of citizens, the two gods mounted the Acropolis, the flat-topped rock that crowned the city. Poseidon struck the cliff with his trident, and a spring welled up. The people marveled, but the water was salty as the sea that Poseidon ruled, and not very useful. Then Athena gave the city her gift. She planted an olive tree in a crevice on the rock. It was the first olive tree the people had ever seen. Athena's gift was judged the better of the two, for it gave food, oil, and wood, and the city was hers. From her beautiful temple on top of the Acropolis, Athena watched over Athens, her city, with the wise owl, her bird, on her shoulder, and under her leadership, the Athenians grew famous for their arts and crafts.